We live in a world where we are constantly being presented with so much, and we're equally being convinced that we need it all. And so we go that extra mile to ensure that we get it all. Some of these things are very, very good and valuable, while others are just empty boxes covered in beautiful wrappings, looking so enticing, yet adding no value to us. And in most cases, it even takes away from us. There are equally things that are clearly harmful, yet for some reason we find it difficult to say no even to those things. Maybe because growth in today's world is limited to adding and not subtracting, piling on and never letting go. This has left us with cluttered lives. A cluttered life leads to a cluttered mind, and a cluttered mind cheats you of valuable time. So it's important that we declutter our mind, regain control of our time, be more productive, so we can live the purposeful lives that we so desire. Now you may be wondering, how is decluttering a time management strategy? Let me quickly answer that before we dive into how you can declutter your mind. A cluttered mind or cluttered life and lack of clarity, they sail in the same boat. Studies have shown that when people are surrounded by too many things and they're faced with too many options, they struggle with decision making. And it takes them a long time to make a choice. And even when they finally make that choice, they are most likely to be less satisfied with it. And so they slide back into that place of uncertainty and they start going through those options all over again. And in this state of clutter and uncertainty, you now begin to feel overwhelmed, stressed out, worried. And as we all know from last week's video, these are all time wasters. So decluttering is not only a time management strategy, but a life management strategy as well. Now let's move on to how to declutter your mind and find clarity. If after making detailed action plans, you are still struggling with staying on task like I was at some point, then your mind is probably cluttered. Our minds are often cluttered with thoughts of our past mistakes, lost opportunities, worrying about the future, or your brain is clogged up with too much information, especially ones that are not even relevant for where you are going. So the first thing is to write it down. Pour out everything that is running through your mind, the good, the bad, the interesting. Pour it all out, and you can choose to use any tool of your choice. Maybe you want to go the digital route, pick an app, or you just want to use the traditional route of a notebook and a pen, which is my favorite. I just like to see things on paper. Go for it. I equally use the Notes app on my phone. It's simple. I just get into my notes and I put down anything that is running through my mind. At times I even use the voice recorder on my phone as well, just to speak out my mind and my heart. You do not need to store up everything up, in your mind. Remember that new information keeps coming. Now you're struggling to keep the old, to, add the new, and to sort everything all up there. It can be very overwhelming. So this first step of pouring everything out is very, very important. Now, after putting everything down, the next thing is to go through that list, identify what you need and what you don't. You have to do some sorting here, because not everything that is in your mind is important or relevant for where you are going. And I understand that this can be a challenging step to take, especially if you haven't found clarity, because how can you prepare and plan for a journey whose destination has not been determined? How do you know what to take and what not to take? This is where clarity comes in. You can ask yourself questions like, who am I? What am I passionate about? What do I love doing? What are my natural talents or abilities? What is it that I want to accomplish in life? What are the kind of friendships that I want to keep? These are a few of the many questions that you should be asking yourself that will help you gain clarity. But as you can see, you don't get the answers to these questions by sitting on the couch and eating popcorn. You have to be out there doing something, living your life intentionally. And as you're doing so and asking these questions, the answers will become clearer and clearer for you. Now, if you have signed up for Shanti Bloom, know that there are two things that you're going to hear over and over again on this channel. One is clarity, and the other is finding balance, because these are things that are very necessary to live a purposeful life. And if you haven't signed up, what are you waiting for? Please consider subscribing, hit that notification bell so that you'll be notified when I bring up those videos with practical steps that are going to help you get unstuck, bloom, and flourish in your everyday life. So clarity is a very important thing, and it's going to help you in this second step of sorting. With clarity, you can look through that list and clearly see that for where you are going, that bitterness, anger, unforgiveness cannot come along. That constant living in regret of your past mistakes and lost opportunities, it will just slow you down. You can clearly see that all this shiny information that adds no value to you, you have to say no to them. At times, all the things that we bombard ourselves, our minds with, it's not that they're really, bad things, but they may just be good. And sometimes you have to say no to the good in order to create time and space for the great. Now, like I said, this process may be a little bit challenging, it may be time consuming, and you may even need some external help. And the reason is because growth that comes from adding on is much easier than growth and maturity that comes from letting go, that comes from shedding off some things. You can put on weight in about a week, but then it may take you months and even the whole year to shed off that weight. It may take you just a second of sniffing something, and before you know it, it's a lifetime of addiction. It may be just an hour of you watching or listening to something, and then it plants an evil idea or, changes your mindset altogether. What about, that hurt that happened to you? Maybe it took just few minutes, but, now you have a lifetime dealing with unforgiveness and bitterness and anger. So the growth that comes from you shedding, that comes from you letting things go, can be very, very tough. But I know that you can do it. I know you can do it if you put your mind to it. Now that you have eliminated what is not needed and you're left with just what is relevant, you now have to plan and organize. A to-do list is not supposed to last forever, and that is a mistake I used to make. I used to just make a mental note of everything, and so I left everything cluttered up there and overwhelming. But then I later saw that no, I have to go through that step of writing everything down. But then I stopped there. After writing things down and sorting them out, I have to still do something with that to-do list, because if not, it's still a little bit chaotic and overwhelming, because I don't know what step to take next, even though everything is down on paper. And so that is where out of that to-do list, you now have to make goals. Out of it has to come plans. Things have to go up on a calendar so that you can comfortably rip off that to-do list, knowing that everything has a place and a time. And finally, guard your mind from repeated clutter. Have you ever cleaned and organized a room and then you tell yourself, it will never, get disorganized again. I'm going to maintain it. It will stay like this. And then just days and weeks down the road, that room is back in chaos. The same thing happens with our minds. If we do not put a guard over our minds, even though we have just decluttered, it's going to get cluttered again. Remember that we are constantly being presented with very enticing things. There's that temptation to get again, sign up for this and accept this, and get this information, just filling up yourself all over again. So you have to put a guard over your mind. You cannot guard your mind through wishful thinking. You cannot wish negative thoughts away. We have to take captive every negative thought, because they are lies. And when they are full grown, they are going to determine the course of your life. As a man thinketh, so is he. So what does this tell you? That your mind is a battlefield, and the toughest battles are fought in the mind. So how strong is your mind? We strengthen our bodies with physical food. We strengthen our mind with the right kind of words. What are you feeding your mind? This is where prayer and meditation comes in. We can only negate lies with truth. And so for every lie, for every clutter, for everything that is trying to find its way into your mind, you can counteract it with truth from the Word of God. He says He will keep in perfect peace those who trust in Him, those whose thoughts are fixed on Him. So whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. And this is how you declutter your mind, keep it decluttered, regain control over your time, stay productive, and live a purpose-driven life. Thank you all so much for watching, and see you in the next.